Welcome to the Jewish Agency for Israel and ILTV's October 7th commemoration event, in collaboration with Hadassah, the Women's Zionist Organization of America, and Magen David Adom. I'm Lidar Gravelazi, and I'm honored to host this special conference today as we mark 2 years since the October 7th massacre, a day that changed Israel and the Jewish people forever. Over the past 2 weeks, we recorded this special program to reflect on our loss and our resilience. But since then, we've received the incredible news that our hostages are coming home, a moment that fills our nation with hope even as we continue to heal from the deep wounds of these past 2 years. Today, we remember the victims, celebrate the return of our hostages, and pray for the recovery of all who were impacted. Through their courage and our unity, we remember, we rebuild, we rise. As we honor the fallen, support their families, and stand together for Israel's future, we invite you to join us in solidarity. But first, we begin with a special message from President Yitzhak Herzog, President of the State of Israel.
Dear friends, from the President's residence in Jerusalem, the beating heartline of the Jewish people, it means so much to me to join you as we gather together across landscapes and languages in sadness, but also with great hope, to mark 2 years since the tragedy of October 7th. Sisters and brothers, it is hard to believe that 2 years have passed since the earth ripped open beneath our feet. The brutal massacre on Simchat Torah, in which our loved ones, women and men, young and old, were butchered, raped, burnt alive and abducted, scarred our nation irreversibly. And in many ways, in the 24 months since, the layers of heartbreak have only deepened. Still now, our hostages are being held in Hamas dungeons. Still now, ongoing loss and grief reminds us constantly of the price and sacrifice of Jewish statehood. Still now, the upsurge of anti-Semitism and the shifts in the fundamental sense of safety, security, and belonging across the Jewish world shock us to the core. And clearly, the trail of sorrow that began with October 7th still impacts every part of our lives. We see this in our own reflections and in the faces all around us. But, dear friends, from deep within the cracks of our broken hearts, we've also uncovered some deep core truths about who we are. In Israel and throughout Jewish communities worldwide, we've been reminded over these 2 years of our shared purpose, our profound sense of mutual responsibility, and our deep connection to our shared story to one another. In the wake of the massacre, we all came forward and showed with our actions and our deeds and our words, Hinenu, we are here for Israel, in solidarity, philanthropy, advocacy, and love, especially for one another. And in this complicated reality, 2 years later, we are still leaning into our collective hope and faith that this reality of conflict is not the final word, that our deepest aspiration to live in peace and security with other moderate and peace-loving nations is possible, that Gaza does not need to be dominated by jihadi terror and extremism, and that a bright and prosperous future can await all of us, Israelis, Palestinians, and the entire region. So, dear friends, Achim ve'achayot, on behalf of the entire nation and state of Israel, I wish to thank all of you for nurturing the bonds that keep our people resilient and whole. I wish also to thank the Jewish Agency and ILTV for this very important gathering. May our hostages come back home immediately, every single one of them, and may we heal and rebuild, as in the words of the prophet Jeremiah, there is hope for your future. Am Israel Chai.
Thank you, President Herzog, for that powerful opening message. And now we begin with our opening interview with Mark Wilf, Chairman of the Board of Governors of the Jewish Agency. Mark, thank you so much for joining us today. I want to start by asking what this second anniversary of October 7th means to you personally and to the global Jewish community that you represent.
Well, these have been the hardest 2 years we've known as a people since the Shoah, and I've experienced so many moments since October 7th that, despite all of it, has filled me with tremendous hope for the future. I've visited kibbutzim in the south soon after the attacks, meeting new Olim, who just arrived at an absorption center in northern Israel. I visited the victims of missile attacks at an Israeli hospital, and of course, sitting and meeting Israeli campers right here in Pennsylvania and in America with Israeli kids who endured the unspeakable on October 7th. And so I've witnessed some incredible moments of astounding resilience. The resilience, the perseverance, and dedication has shown. It's inspired me. It's inspired so many. And we've managed to gather our strength. And we've done this before. After the Shoah, I was privileged to grow up surrounded by survivors, including my own parents, who never gave up and taught me the incredible lessons of Jewish perseverance. And so today we see this perseverance in action like never before. And that builds and gives me tremendous hope and hope for all of us.
And so what does this second anniversary of October 7th mean to you personally and to the global Jewish community that you represent?
Well, like I said, the resilience for me personally, being around so many Israelis who've given me such hope, all the different visits I've mentioned before, has really inspired me. And the resilience is something I think we can all take great hope in.
Absolutely. And the Jewish Agency has been at the center of uniting Israel with Jewish communities worldwide in the aftermath of the massacre. I mean, what role do you see the agency playing in ensuring that global solidarity sort of translates into long-term strength and resilience for the state of Israel?
Well, the Jewish Agency, as it has been for nearly a century, remains the global table of the Jewish people and of all the Jewish people, wherever they are. And no other organization has this global presence. We're in 65 countries. We support these communities. We have 3,000 people all over the world on the ground, the largest delegation of shlichim we have ever had. And we need to really continue that, because this is the moment to double down on support for Jewish communities around the world and on strengthening the connection to our beloved state of Israel. So Jewish unity, Jewish solidarity, these aren't slogans. After October 7th, this resilience, this coming together has really been impactful. The power of the collective, I talk about it all the time, and that is what brings us through. It's been on proud display, showing the Israeli people that they are not alone. The global Jewish people are standing firmly with the state of Israel, and Am Yisrael Chai.
Am Yisrael Chai. And, you know, even during these times, 2 years after October 7th, we're witnessing a massive wave of anti-Semitism across the globe, even in the United States. Now, you've been a prominent voice against anti-Semitism, but when you see these unprecedented levels of hate that we've reached now, are you concerned? And how do we combat this age-old phenomenon today?
Well, certainly there's great concern. This is a difficult period, but like I said, we've been through worse. And I will tell you that our ultimate way to fight is to be strong, to be united, to be together. And I'm so honored to be leading the Jewish Agency at this historic moment. We've been able to be resilient, to heal together, to rebuild our businesses, our communities, and to connect with Jewish communities around the world. So if we're tied to each other, if we take great pride in our heritage and educate our young people to learn, to be better tooled, to respond to all these attacks, I remain hopeful, because that's been our history. If we're strong among our Jewish people, we can overcome all.
And so as we kick off this special event, what is your message to Jews here in Israel and to Jews around the world?
I would say that we are so together, and to help us heal and to rebuild, the power of the Jewish people is undeniable. And when we stand together, I know our best days are ahead.
An important message. Mark Wilf, thank you so much for joining us as we mark this special day.
Thank you.
And now we turn to Major General in the Reserves Doron Almog, chairman of the Jewish Agency, whose personal story and leadership embody an inspiring and impactful vision for the future of the organization and the State of Israel.
Doron, thank you so much for being here today. On October 7th, your own family was struck by tragedy. How has living through that experience shaped your own understanding of the grief and resilience of so many Israeli families since the massacre?
Very painful. Painful because it endless suffer and grief for the family until their last day. Unfortunately, my family unable to return to Kfar Aza right now. And for me, as the chairman of the executive of Jewish Agency, this by itself is a kind of wishful for Jews all over the world to listen, to be connected to this grief and sorrow and pain of many families in Gaza envelope, in south of Israel, in north of Israel, bereaved family, hostages families, and need to understand that this is the State of Israel is a partnership between all the Jews in the world.
You have described October 7th as a catastrophic failure on multiple levels. Looking back now, 2 years later, what are the most important lessons, militarily, morally, and socially, that Israel must internalize to ensure that such a tragedy is never repeated?
The reason is arrogance. We were arrogant. October 7th was a huge failure, but I think we didn't hear well the environment, the Middle East, our enemies. We got the best intelligence in the world, knowing many things, giving us the feeling that we are superior about our enemies, but we didn't listen to the music. We didn't listen to the street talk, the Arab, the Hamas, the Hezbollah, street talk. And we should be better. We should be more humble. We should listen well. So I belong to a generation that was surprised once, 1973, with the same elements, arrogance. We thought after the great victory of 1967, the Six-Day War, that they're afraid. Our enemies are afraid. They know how mighty the IDF, the State of Israel, and they want attack us. And we failed 1973. We failed by our arrogance, by this intoxication of victory. And the same now, 50 years after, October 7, 1923.
Now, Doron, as chair of the Jewish Agency, you have been at the forefront of connecting Israel and the diaspora. How did October 7th redefine the mission of the Jewish Agency? And in what ways has it changed the relationship between Israel and Jews worldwide?
We have emissaries, shlichim, all over the world. We have shinshinim, 18 years old, coming to 1 year overseas, placed in Jewish family all over the world. In United Kingdom, in Italy, in France, in United States, in Australia, in Canada, in South Africa, we have our own emissaries. What they do, they strengthen Jewish identity, Jewish education, Jewish pride. They bring the authentic story of the State of Israel, the authentic story of October 7th failure, the authentic story of hostages, the authentic story of grief and sorrow, but also the pride of being belong to the phenomenal Jewish people. I'm chairman of Jewish Agency. There are more towards for Israel. For Israel. So that's the way we do our business, to strengthen by present, being there with the diaspora community, strengthen them, bring the empathy, the sympathy, the love, our story, and by this presence and the daily action every day, get up in the morning, go to the JCC, go to the synagogue, go to the public school, be there, be present in their communities and influenced by unconditional love and our story, our pride, and I believe we empower the partnership between Jewish communities all over the world and the State of Israel.
You've said the image of victory will not be determined on the battlefield, but by the society that we rebuild afterwards. What do you believe are the core pillars of the society Israel must strengthen over the next few years to truly achieve victory?
To be more inclusive. The greatest professor of my life in this respect is my child. Eran Almog, who passed away almost 19 years ago, was born with severe brain injury. The child that never said one word, never said Abba, that never made eye contact. And he was named here in our beloved country, retarded. In Hebrew, mefager. He was highly discriminated. And for him, I did my oath. I swore to change Israel's society, to make a tikkun olam, to integrate those who are stereotyped and stigmatized like my child. Those high soul arrived to our world without ability to correct themselves. And the only reason they arrived to our world, to correct ourselves, to correct our behavior. In this respect, we need to welcome every Jew. It doesn't matter what kind of Jew, is Reform, Conservative, Orthodox, secular, is from Russia or South Africa, New York, or whatever, is a Jew. Every Jew in the world who wants to support Israel, to show his love to Israel, to come to Israel, to make Aliyah. We need to show our open arms and welcome him with love.
And Doron, it's very important what you're bringing up in terms of the marginalization of Jews and Israelis today. Certainly Jewish communities abroad are facing an alarming rise in anti-Semitism. How do you see the responsibility of Jews in the diaspora evolving in relation to Israel? And what do you hope most that Jewish communities worldwide will do in this critical time?
First of all, we, the Jewish Agency, with our shlichim in campus, we call them Israel Fellows. The Israel Fellows' presence in universities, in campus all over the world, what they are doing, empowering the Jewish students, hugging them, organizing them to face anti-Semitism, walking in group instead of individual, speak how we would stand together, organize ourselves against this wave of growing anti-Semitism. I believe all of us, every Jew in the world, need to stand tall and be a proud Jew.
And Doron, just to conclude, after experiencing both personal loss and national tragedy, and yet also so many moments over the last 2 years of unity and resilience, what thread of hope sustains you today? What message do you most want to share with Israelis and Jews worldwide as we mark this second anniversary of October 7th?
I saw the beauty of Jewish people in the wake of October 7 war. I saw Jews all over the world trembling, show sympathy, empathy, love, raising money, coming to Israel, raising awareness all over the world, volunteering in the Gaza envelope, in the farming industry, thousand arriving. Also, since October 7 until now, more than 50,000 did Aliyah. And this is the beauty. It's a horrific time, but also the beauty hour of the Jewish people all over the world. And I'm sorry, but we will continue rebuilding the state of Israel, strengthening the Jewish people, and I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud on this phenomena of Jews who are standing tall for the state of Israel. I'm very proud on Jewish agency that doing amazing thing, like the Aliyah, like strengthening Jewish communities, like strengthening partnership. So for us, every citizen of the state of Israel is a citizen, and we supporting the minorities. I'm very proud on Jewish agency activities all over the world. We are operating in 66 countries, in every Jewish community all over the world, and we rebuild the state of Israel, as I said, economically, socially. We have small business support, victims of terror support. Millions were raised by Jews and given to those victims of terror. More than 20,000 victims of terror here in Israel get cash money, 4,000 shekel immediately in the first 24 hours. And then more 24,000 for trees and mentoring support. We are with them. So I'm very proud of that.
Doron, thank you so much for sharing your insights today.
And now Yehuda Seton, CEO and Director General of the Jewish Agency.
Yehuda, thank you so much for being here today. Now, the Jewish Agency exists not just to respond to immediate needs, but to plan for the future. How do you balance the tension between the urgent relief work and long-term strategy in this period? Which strategic initiatives are you most eager to launch now that the immediacy of the October 7th crisis is relatively stabilized, if we can say that?
For generation, emergency is not new for the Jewish Agency. Saving people's lives, supporting them in their most urgent needs, but at the same time, always thinking about the future. Now, thinking about the Jewish Agency from October 7, we've been able to mobilize the Jewish Agency, taking an historical crisis and to turn it into collective action that impact thousands of people in Israel. It's not only the 22,000 people, the victim of terror that we support, and the 15,000 that we support through businesses, but also mobilize the Jewish people outside of Israel to support Israel, to demonstrate for Israel, to do a lot of, to show the solidarity for Israel. But at the same time, when we build and we cover what has been destroyed, we are thinking about how to build the future. One example that is super relevant for that is that we send kids what we called Campers Together. We send all of the 8th grade in Israel that been affected after October 7 to summer camp in North America. Now, on one hand, this is part of their resilience, part of their healing process. We're sending them with social workers and have a process before and after. But at the same time, they are connected to their peers in North America and around the world. Now, by connecting them, you make sure that this kind of connection is lasting for years to come. Another example, very quick one, is that in the very beginning of the war, when I traveled and met the Jewish communities, the kibbutzim that have been affected, I told them that we want to connect them to Jewish communities around the world, but not only for the next year. We thought at the time that the war will be only 1 year, but actually created at least 3 years program, because I want to make sure that this kind of people-to-people connection is to stay years ahead and not only through the time of war. So we have to take this opportunity of healing and the resilience and shape it to the future of the Jewish people.
In the aftermath of 2 years of war, Jews around the world continue to show increasing support for Israel. What do you see as the most promising ways for diaspora Jews to move from solidarity to sustained partnership with Israel over the coming years? And how can the Jewish Agency transform these spikes into interest that is longer lasting and more engaging?
Yeah, we definitely see a spike of interest, and I'm often said that for me, to be in these tables, to meet those people, that show the solidarity for Israel. I wish that every Israeli could be there and feel that and see how much people care about that and feel the feeling that we are not alone over there. Now, our goal is actually to take this solidarity and translate it to actions. While people acting and not only just donate money, but they feel they're part of the process, so they will be committed. It's not enough just to ask them for the money, we need to ask them to do something. And for us, we said that we need to make sure that every Jewish person is taking an active part in the rebuilding of the state of Israel after what happened. So it could be coming to volunteer. It could be that they made Aliyah. It could be that the connection, they come to show their solidarity with the state of Israel. We need to create programs. This is exactly what we do, that bring the people together to actually act together and not just to be there for the other people. And I think that's the basic, translate the solidarity into actions.
Now, your colleague, Jewish Agency Chairman Doron Almog, regularly emphasizes the idea that victory is not only on the battlefield, but in the society that we rebuild afterward. How would you say the Jewish Agency is working to weave together the physical rebuilding of homes with healing, social cohesion, and restoring a sense of safety?
Yeah, it's not enough just to rebuild. It's not enough to go to the structure. You can have, 50 people that will take care of that. The idea is to bring the people together in order to build it together. So in our case, it's to bring our partners, the Jewish Federations of North America, Keren HaYesod, the World Zionist Organization, many donors, many volunteers, Massa participants, all of them need to come together. So when you build houses, for example, we're going to build 1,000 houses in the expansion of the kibbutzim and the moshavim that have been affected after October 7. It's not enough just to build the houses. We need to create the programs that supported the people that will enter the houses. And for us, we have to make sure that the community stay together. We have to make sure that after October 7, people feel that they are one nation.
From your vantage as CEO of the Jewish Agency in this moment of rupture and rebuilding, what is your own anchor of hope for Israel and the Jewish people?
I hope that in 20 years from now, if there will be a crisis, that I hope that there will not be a crisis, but I hope that we'll see the same mobilization within the Jewish world. And, for me, the anchor of hope is the people that I meet, the Olim that decided through Israel, when people right now is running away from Israel, that come to Israel despite the fires, despite the missiles, and the work that we have together, the fact that we can work together with different ministries in Israel, the Ministry of Aliyah and Klita, and to bring them together with other partners that we have and to make it happen, that gives me hope. The people, the donors, the Olim Chadashim, the kids that until we came to work with him, didn't get out of his home for almost a year and come for the first time to the Keitana, the summer camps of the victim of terror fund of the Jewish Agency. That gives me hope. I see that in every action that we do.
When people in Israel and the diaspora ask, what do we do now? What do we build now? What is your answer?
We build the resilience of the Jewish people for future to come. We build the active belonging of the Jewish people. We build the one nation right now. We not just building houses, we building hope and resilience and belonging and collective action.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights today.
Toda rabba. Thank you very much.
Even before October 7th, the Jewish Agency was providing financial assistance, long-term rehabilitation, and trauma support to individuals and families impacted by terrorism in Israel and around the world. Since the Hamas massacre and 2 long years of war, however, the needs have become even more urgent. It's my honor to welcome Ayelet Nachmias Verbin, chair of the Fund for the Victims of Terror, and Natalia Ben-Zvi, whose son Sagiv was murdered at the Nova Music Festival on October 7th. They will be interviewed by anchor Sivan Raviv.
Thank you both for joining us today. Natalia, I'd like to start with you. I'm going to ask you for your personal story. Can you tell us what happened on that terrible October 7th morning, when did you understand that something was terribly wrong?
It actually started on the 6th, when he told me he's going to the party. I said, no way, you're not going to. He said, by Netivot. I said, no way, you're not going there.
Your son, Sagiv.
Yeah, my precious son. And he went to work. He was a barman. He came back, had a shower, of course. And then at 2 a.m. at night, he knocked on my door and said, Mom, I'm going, but don't worry, it's in Ashdod. And I wasn't worried because it was in Ashdod.
Why would you be?
Yeah. I heard the sirens at 6:29. Immediately, I knew he's not home because we have a routine. He's knocking on my door when he's coming back at home, and he's waking me up. That's the routine. I'm a very polished mom. Mm-hmm. And I knew he's not home. So while trying to get down to the shelter, I called him. And he was already on the way. He was on 232. He said the party was okay. Don't worry, there's nothing here. I'm on the way back home. He was driving his friend's car, Ronnie Petovsky. And Ronnie was very drunk. So Sagiv drove. And I spoke to him 3 times that morning. Mm-hmm. The 4th time, when I called, the 3rd time, he promised me he's coming back home. I was already
Very
hysterical. I can say at that point I was hysterical. I called him every few minutes, like at 6:58, I called and no answer.
Who showed up to help?
It began with the families and friends, all the friends. I mean, hundreds of friends of Sagiv and his brother and sister's friends. Of course, the agency and the Foundation of Terror. Mm-hmm. They called me after 2 weeks and said, can you give us your bank account? I said, who wants my bank account? Who gives a bank account? We want to transfer you money. Mm. And they did.
So they were very supportive.
Yes. And from then on, Ayelet and everybody is a big part of my life.
Ayelet, that's incredible. You're the chair of the Fund for Victims of Terror. And Jay Reddy, you need a moment? It's okay.
No, it amazes me, you know. I've heard Natalia speak so many times, and I've heard Sagiv's story so many times. And, you know, unfortunately, we have had up until October 7th. I'm the chair of the fund for 5 years, so 3 years before October 7th. So up until October 7th, we had 9,000 families over 22 years. And since October 7th, we have over 10,000 new beneficiaries. And if I really want to be prompt, then we speak about after Rising Lion, we have around 15,000. And that's without our rehabilitation, our group rehabilitation program. So it amazes me because I hear these stories every day. And still there is something about the way that Natalia puts it together that we, again, get a perspective of what we went through on October 7th. And before October 7th, we were also very close with our beneficiaries. But how do you handle the scale? How do you, you know, the SLA, you know, I come from the business sector, not just from the public sector. So I know how do you go about when you have so many new beneficiaries? How do you go about it? But it was important for us, especially for the rehabilitation stage, not just the emergency stage of it. Yeah. The rehabilitation stage, it was very crucial for us to make sure they know we're there, we're not going anywhere, and that's the Fund for the Victims of Terror of the Jewish Agency, but I've got to hand it to the incredible people in the Jewish Agency, and of course, the incredible Jewish communities around the world. None of the things that we have been doing since we would have been able to do without the Federations of North America, without UIA, without Keren Hayesod, without our donors who are not Jewish from communities all over the world, of course, our donors in Israel. How would we have been able to
Help
come
us.
to people like Natalia and, of course, so many other families and say, we're here? So
That's incredible work, and I'm very thankful that you're there to do it. Can you tell me how the Jewish Agency stepped in during emergency and how that differs from what it's like in long-term rehabilitation?
of course. So what we did within a month and a half, we already distributed 6,500 emergency grants to families. By now, we're already around 9,000 emergency grants, bereaving families, to the families of the wounded, and of course families who got a direct hit. Something, again, after Rising Lion, after the 12-day war with Iran, I think is a little bit more, you're more able to grasp what it means to actually lose your house. But on October 7th, we had so many people who were assassinated that people didn't grasp that there were also houses that were directly hit, and of course people who were displaced. So that was the immediate thing. And again, we've done it before. So we were used to it, but who can be used to such a scale, And this is, for us, and again, this very, very small team of people. Now we have unfortunately, we have a much bigger team, but this very small team of women, incredible, and all my team, our team has the biggest heart you've ever seen in your life, Nahon? Isn't it true? So
it's a second home, I have to say.
But a second phase is much more challenging, and that's the rehabilitation stage. Because, again, with Natalia, this is where we step in with the $6,000 money that is not just money transferred in the bank, but is dedicated to rehabilitation programs, individual rehabilitation programs, and that we work very closely with the families to design it. So they can use it for sports, they can use it for extracurricular activities for the kids, they can use it if the kids need help with school, they can use it for specific things to do with their health. We always come after what the government gives in order to make sure that all our beneficiaries enjoy, again, the word enjoy, but it's that they get everything that they're entitled to, and then they can get help from us as well when it comes to mental health, things that are, therapies that have, for some reason, the government has ended them or ended the programs and stuff like that, and we can, follow up on that.
So we're not in post-trauma yet. We're still in the trauma stage. Yeah. And people need help, and I'm not the only one. There are thousands of people. They are wounded. There are people that need so much help, and we have to raise up and do whatever we can do to help everybody.
Ayelet, why is global community, Jewish communal support so important?
First of all, the Jewish communal support, we couldn't have done anything that we've done since October 7th without that. But the thing I want to add is that our support is different than before October 7th, because before October 7th, we supported individually 9,000 families in 22 years. But after October 7th, we understood because of the scale, we need to have another line of support, and that is the group therapy that we are offering to not just the first circle of the beneficiaries, but also the second and third circles and the community itself. And it gives us a sense, that we can, in spite of everything, we can come out of it stronger.
Thank you both very much.
Israel's defense systems lighting up the sky.
And the damage is extensive.
There are still missing individuals.
This central Tel Aviv neighborhood engulfed in flames.
The destruction is huge. We believe that from the ashes, the bereavement will continue building a better state of Israel.
Obviously, a historic moment. We're expressing continuing solidarity with our brothers and sisters in Israel.
Our teams are all over Israel, from the north to the south, making sure that nobody is feel alone.
ראיתם את הפגיעה הישירה אצלנו בעיר.
הם צריכים עכשיו סיוע. עכשיו, ואנחנו צריכים להיות שם מהר.
תודה לכם על הכל, באמת.
We will be there for them. With the new fund, Rising Lion Fund, the Jewish communities around the world are going to be there for them.
The Jewish communities of the diaspora have a role to play here. And while we can't necessarily all be here directly to help them, there are other ways that we can, with our money, with our show of support, with our love.
Doron, through you to all of the Jewish communities around the world, we can feel your love and support. Starting tomorrow, we're going to rebuild bigger, stronger.
It's an amazing feeling. We just couldn't wait. Am Israel Chai!
I'm standing here in the Haruva Absorption Center after visiting with New Olim, who, as you can imagine, have gone through a very difficult period. We come with the message that Jews around the world are thinking of them.
Package has enough food for about a week. This is really to ensure that our beloved residents of Amigu do not have to risk themselves, don't have to leave their house unnecessarily at these times of constant sirens here in Israel.
ובהצלחה לשליחים של הסוכנות היהודית.
שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
Let's have a great summer!
We will continue to be here, working day and night to help every single citizen of Israel and the Jewish people.
We are here, all the Jewish communities from all over the world, ready to support and do our maximum effort building the state of Israel.
Sergeant Nathaniel Young was a 20-year-old lone soldier from the United Kingdom who served in the Golani Brigade's 13th Battalion. He was killed in action on October 7th at the Iftach IDF outpost near Zikim. Following his death, his parents, Chantal and Nikki, chose to make Aliyah and move to Israel, where Nathaniel was laid to rest. Today, we will hear from two of his siblings, Gabi and Elliot.
Gabi and Elliot, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Of course. No, I want to actually start by taking a look backwards. Nathaniel told you and others that he really dreamed of making Aliyah to Israel. Can you share a memory that shows where that determination and that Jewish pride actually came from, even as a boy growing up in London?
So Nathaniel grew up as the youngest of 5 siblings, and 3 of them made Aliyah when he was only a really young boy. So I have memories of him saying very explicitly that he wanted to, when he grows up, he wants to go and live in Israel and serve in the IDF and have 10 dogs and live near the beach as a 10-year-old. And as well as that, he grew up in a very tightly knit Jewish community in North London. And our parents were very involved in the community, and he also attended Jewish schools.
and had very, very strong ties to Israel. And they also discussed potentially making Aliyah one day.
You know, Netanyahu really found a lot of joy in the army, as you described, but also from other activities that we were talking about, the dog sitting. He wants 10 dogs here in Israel, or DJing in Tel Aviv in the nightclubs, and spending time, of course, with his large family. So what did those passions and his personality tell you about the kind of man that he was becoming?
So as he was growing up, he had lots of different interests, and but he also came across quite a few kind of roadblocks in some occasions. And each time he pushed through them, and he had this determination that he really, really wanted to succeed. So, for example, I'll give you the example of the DJing, because we spoke about the army already. So the DJing, he really, really wanted to become a DJ. So he went to music school and learnt the technical side of it. And then he thought, you know, I'll stay in England. Maybe in Israel I won't have those opportunities. But he came to Israel and he found an opportunity to DJ in one of Tel Aviv's best clubs.
Wow.
And it just showed that even in Israel, where he thought I'm not going to be successful there in the music industry, it just goes to show that many young people think, maybe like I can't achieve my goals in Israel, or maybe I need to go abroad to be able to achieve the things that I want to achieve. But he managed to achieve all those things here in Israel. He got his first apartment, his first real job, his first real DJ residency, and most of all, joining Golani, which was the unit that he really, really wanted to join. He was told that he wouldn't be able to get into Golani. He was pushed back twice. So he went back to the gym and trained even harder and reapplied. He said, no, there must have been a mistake. I'm going to reapply. And he redid the application process to get into Golani. And actually, when we went to his bedroom after he was killed, we actually saw on his wall a poster from a Michael Jordan quote saying, some people think it will happen, some people wish it would happen, and others will make it happen. And we really believe that he lived his life by that motto. And so we've taken that motto and we've created like Make It Happen stickers. And we try and live our lives like in his honor towards that motto. And we see that his friends do too. So he made it happen in Israel.
Wow, it's so incredible to think about that. And I want to take us back, you know, with that idea of making it happen to the day that he unfortunately was killed. On October 7th, he was fighting at the Yiftach outpost in Zikim, which is in southern Israel. And you later learned that he helped save a lot of lives that day and really prevented the kibbutz from being infiltrated by as many Hamas terrorists. How did you first hear about what happened? And what do you want the world to most understand about what he did that very day?
So it actually took a whole week till we actually found out that he was in the Yiftach base, because he was with Golani soldiers that were mixed in a base, Yiftach. It's very near to Zikim kibbutz, and he was in a base that was a lot of different soldiers. So what actually happened was Naama Boni, who was a soldier, a female soldier who was at the Shingamo at the front of the base, she called her friend who was on the base, called Ido Harush, and as Netanyahu and his commander and another soldier were preparing, were waiting for instruction on what to do because they knew something was happening. They just saw him they just saw Ido get off the phone and run. So they ran after him, and actually they thought maybe someone got injured from a rocket. They didn't realize that actually that Naama had called and reported infiltration. Netanyahu, being him, ran straight into the firing line and was killed. And at the same time, the brave soldier Gabriel, who was shot and continued fighting, actually survived, and he's here today, thank God. But the there were another 45 soldiers on the base. Many of them were not combat soldiers. And we actually went to hear the results of the inquiry. And what was incredible was hearing that each of the soldiers who were killed that day, each of them took an action and made a decision because there was no command. They had to make decisions on their own.
So your parents actually followed you and now came on Aliyah as a result of, not as a result, but in following in Netanyahu's footsteps, who came here and built this life and they said they really needed to be where he is. So how has that move reshaped your family's life, and what are you doing to keep Netanyahu's memory alive?
Wow, so first of all, my parents are incredible people. Considering everything they've been through, they have been really, really strong. I think even the day before the funeral, my mum said to me, that's it, Nikki, we're making Aliyah. Nikki's my dad. We're making Aliyah. We have to be here. And within 6 weeks, they had sold their house and come and made Aliyah in November. And since then, my mum goes Israeli dancing with the Netanyahu's T-shirt twice a week. My parents are always showing how life goes on, and we have to celebrate every moment that we can in his memory, because Netanyahu was a very young and happy, and he loved to party also and celebrate. And I think it's only right that we try as much as we can, even though it's, not very easy times, that we try and live in his memory as he would have wanted us to, and how in his spirit, basically. So we've watched my parents really thrive in Israel, enjoying life in Israel. The amount of support, we have a much wider family in Israel of everyone, of the public and the community who have really come to support us. We live in a very special place. And we also have recently set up a fund in Netanyahu's memory to make it happen in memory of Netanyahu. And that is mainly to all different types of initiatives to help youth at risk, young people at risk in Israel and also in the UK, who maybe might go off the path towards success. And we want to help them become successful, whether it's due to mental health or financial instability or all different kinds of programs. And if you want to find more information, www.netanyahu-young.com.
Wow, that's so beautiful. And especially as, we're coming to a conclusion with this, I think we do need some final words of hope. Elliot, perhaps you can just share, what message of hope do you want to convey today? Today being, almost 2 years since the death of your brother.
I think the hope is that, our country is made up of such amazing people, which is why we have chosen to live here, and why my parents have chosen to live here. And that really we should remember all the people that gave their lives, but the hope is really that because of them we can continue, and we can continue to live here and grow the land. And I know that that's what Netanyahu would want. Netanyahu would be proud that people are continuing, and that coffee shops are still full, and that and that's
people
what
can achieve their dreams,
and that people can people can really achieve their dreams. That's
we
really
can
the hope.
continue to make it happen.
Yeah.
Well,
Exactly.
Gavi and Elliot, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Mayan.
Thank you so much.
For the brave soldiers who are serving in the IDF without their families in Israel, life can be both inspiring and challenging. The Jewish agency's Wings program provides these lone soldiers with emotional, financial, and practical support. Joining us now is the head of the Wings program to share more about this important work.
Meirav, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be together.
So the Wings program has become a lifeline for lone soldiers serving far from their families. Can you talk about the program itself?
This is, I would say, one of the biggest and in my very personal eyes, one of the most important programs of the Jewish Agency. It goes already back 18 years with Misrad HaKlita and a private philanthropist. And basically, we take care of lone soldiers who decide to make Aliyah after they open what we call, the file, and they decided to come to Israel and to make Aliyah. This is ages 18 to 24. They contact us through the Jewish Agency, and from that point, we take care of them.
And obviously, this program has existed for a very long time, but in the aftermath of October 7th, and obviously these last 2 years, there must have been new challenges for the lone soldiers. How has Wings had to adapt to meet their needs?
So that, after 2 months, we already understood that it's a different ballgame. They don't just need us for information and to get used to the Israel society. The first thing that we understood is that we have, as we call, we have a problem, because unfortunately and very sadly, 42 lone soldiers fell, and more than 70 got injured, and we understood that we have to take care of them. And this is basically on everyday care. It means, contacting the families, bringing the parents, taking care of, of accommodations. They have to move, to live somewhere else. This is a different story. So this is the first thing that we started understanding right after the war started. The second thing is that after 6 months, we started taking care of the Miluim soldiers, which basically we didn't do before because there was no need. I mean, the program took care of soldiers until 3-4 months after, and then, they flew away already as young Israelis. But the long Miluim and the need for psychologically support, for care, for other problems that, the Miluim wasn't just, 30 days, it was 3-4 months. So then we started taking care of the Miluim, of the people in the reserves. And we founded a year ago a fund of philanthropists, which I'm leading, only to take care of reserve soldiers. Incredible. Because the needs are different than before. We just checked it 6 months ago. I'm part of the Board of Governors of the Sochnut, and we asked for a survey, and we found 2 very interesting facts. The first one, that 87% of them said that they're not lonely and they feel Israelis because they're serving in the army. And the second thing, that 60% of them said that one of the family members or the parents made Aliyah after them. So if this is not win-win-win game, I don't know what's a winning game.
It sounds like an incredible program. Meirav, I'm so grateful for you that you were able to share about the program Wings today with us. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you very much for allowing me to share what we do. Thank you.
For this next interview, join us for a look into the emergency helicopter landing pad at Hadassah Ein Kerem, a site that has received victims of terror and wounded soldiers for decades, and even more so since the war began on October 7th. Joining us are Dr. Yoram Weil, Director of the Orthopedic Trauma Unit at Hadassah Ein Kerem, Dr. Yona Ofran, Department of Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation at Hadassah Medical Center, and Dr. Shir Shabbat Ben Yehuda, Senior Resident in Rehabilitation at Hadassah.
Thank you all so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us.
Of course. Now, I want to start actually by thinking about the fact that we are 2 years since October 7th. I assume that the kinds of injuries and patients that you're working with have changed. Maybe, Dr. Shabbat, you can start by telling me, what kinds of injuries are you still seeing today, and how has Hadassah adopted its responses from those first chaotic weeks of war to now?
So at this point, 2 years after the outbreak of the war, we don't see a lot of new wounded citizens and soldiers, but we continue to treat the wounded soldiers and civilians that we admitted in the past 2 years that are still suffering from physical limitations, emotional distress, and chronic pain. For some of these patients, they are at crucial crossroads, returning to work, returning to active military duty, or resuming studies. I think that in parallel, we continue treating patients from all over Jerusalem and the area after CVA, traumatic brain injuries, after car accidents and fall from heights, spinal cord injuries.
Of course. And Dr. Orfan, can you piggyback on that and speak a little bit about the difference between the chaotic first weeks of war and the long path of recovery?
In the beginning, in the hospital and in all of the Israeli society, we had to react very quickly to the trauma when we were traumatized ourselves, staff, communities. People were out of the homes, out of the communities. Children were in the reserve army. About a third of our staff was in the reserved army, or their wives were holding their homes by themselves. We had to quickly organize a service that would fit the enormous numbers of patients that came in. Through time, we moved to the new Gandel building that enabled us to take care of this huge population. And we started regulation, and we could react, not chaotic emergency reaction, but planning ahead, giving the right treatment, fitting the treatment to the various injuries, opening clinics, preparing for the next stage of the long-term rehab. As Dr. Shir mentioned, opening the long-term clinic. We have combined clinics with orthopedic doctors, plastic doctors, fertility doctors, sexual rehabilitation, long-term daycare rehabilitation, everything that could help people regain and return back to their lives.
And Professor Weil, in your case, orthopedic trauma has really moved at a record pace this year. What breakthroughs now let you save or rebuild limbs that once would have been lost? And how are tools like 3D printing and planning changing the outcomes for your patients?
In Hadassah, we really fought hard to save limbs. Most of the injuries involve the skeleton, like 80% of the wounded involved the musculoskeletal system. So we were the busiest, orthotrauma was the busiest service in the hospital. Personally, in October 7th, I was in Belgium instructing some course, and Hadassah flew me as soon as they could. And I think in contrast to other hospitals, we saved a lot of limbs. Our amputation rate was one of the lowest in the country. And we, of course, utilized whatever resources we had. We didn't save anything. And some 3D printing technology was used, especially for missing parts of joints. This is a real novelty. We actually printed a few implants. And after it also, we used it for civilian trauma as well. And of course, 3D planning. The second wave actually is still going on, and we are getting, as a tertiary center, all the complications of cases done elsewhere that didn't succeed. And we also put a lot of effort in providing advanced trauma care, for example, treating bone gaps, infections, non-unions, all of these very hard to treat conditions. And I might mention the excellent cooperation with my colleagues here in Rev, that they do an amazing job with this beautiful center that they built, and we try to cooperate as much as we can so we can do the first step, but most of the work is up to them.
Yeah, and I want to go back to that, to the first step, because, Dr. Shabbat, you meet patients at that most fragile moment early on and they enter the rehab ward. What does day one of rehabilitation really look like in 2025, physically and emotionally? And what have you learned about motivating people when they're really exhausted by all the pain and trauma? While answering, if you can touch on the combination of the physical and the psychological and how that works together.
Okay, so as said, in January 2024, we moved to the new Gendel Rehabilitation Center. That enabled us to triple the number of inpatient beds and the number of patients we're treating in daycare programs. So we had to start and learn new expertise because patients began to arrive only days after injury, sometimes immediately after the intensive care unit. We needed to know how to treat fresh wounds and pain management and to wean off tracheostomy, to collaborate with other hospital specialists, to continue the acute care while beginning the rehabilitation process. For many of these patients, the psychological aspect has not yet been treated or processed in this stage, so they came with acute stress disorder. And so we have a big team of psychologists and social workers. Each patient goes in a very unique and specific assessment in the beginning, in the first week of the hospitalization, and then they are followed through the rehabilitation journey. We also have dog therapy, groups therapy led by social workers for the patients and their families, acupuncture, and yoga therapy.
It's pretty incredible. And I mean, Dr. Efron, you actually play a very big role in that because from what I understand, you run the daycare rehab, and that can last for months or even years in some cases. What enables sustained progress for a patient to be able to be discharged? And what does a good day look like for a patient? Maybe also touch on the role of family, community in that long rehabilitation process.
As Professor Solvayel said, the first stage is saving life in the first ward of hospitalization. Then they start walking their first steps and standing on their feet in the inpatient rehab. But there's a huge, long journey to come back into life. I like the Hebrew word shikum because rehabilitation is getting back to your habits prior to the injury. And shikum in Hebrew is from the word lakum, to stand up. And a person has to evaluate all his prior abilities that give him the strength, his personality, his values, his family, his community, learn his new abilities and regain back physical abilities. And with all that, he has to choose a meaningful life that could bring him back to being a donor himself to his community and growing up. I think the sense of meaning and the sense of community are the strongest strength of our Israeli patients. People finish their rehab and want to run back into the army service or return back to their homes and take care of their children. We have patients that married through their rehab and they started new families that run back to study their academic studies during rehab. We move out the treatments to different days to enable them to continue with the life and dealing with a great life journey of sometimes pain, trauma, losing friends and family, and rebuilding and finding their way.
Professor Weil, if I can turn to you, there is such a need for coordination between the orthopedic surgery department, of course, and all of the staff, working in the rehabilitation wards. It's crucial. So what do you do now in the operating room that sets the patients up to be able to transition more effectively to work with the rehab department? And also, is there anything that philanthropy or policy could have solved right away? Do you ever have any bottlenecks that should be easily solved, but they're just not the right tools in place?
Okay, so for the first question, I think it's a global trend in orthotrauma, not war-related, but we do now our best to enable as much as we can immediate mobilization, including weight-bearing and movement of the joints and muscle exercises. So we try to do a better job in fixing the fractures and stabilizing the tissue. So my dear colleagues here will enable to work better with the patients. So it's crucial. And sometimes we can't if we have comminuted articular fractures that involve the joint. But even with that, we try our best to do our best job to create a stable situation where the patient can mobilize earlier. I just came back from a meeting in Switzerland, and we were discussing that among our colleagues from all over the world. It's a global trend right now. Wow. The second thing is, I think the war had actually given us a great opportunity with rehab especially when they opened this amazing building, that now patients can even transfer, as Dr. Moreh said, even in the acute state. So they don't have to wait even for suture removal or to make appointments or to have their financial situation solved with a health provider in order to go to the rehab. And it's a win-win for us because the patient is immediately starting his rehab, and whatever there's a question, there's a problem, the communication is direct, and we can intervene if necessary. If secondary procedures are needed, then it's very easy to move the patient across hospitals and do whatever it can. So it's a big bonus for us.
Sure.
I hope it will continue and will be also for all other trauma situation, not just in war.
Sure, of course. And I mean, there was already such a deficit of rehabilitation centers, certainly in this area of the country. And the Ganzel Rehabilitation Center has provided, for this a very acute need. I think that we knew it before October 7th, and it became even more essential, of course, after the tragedy of that day. And speaking of the Ganzel Rehabilitation Center, Dr. Ofran, it has really had to expand capacity and services in Jerusalem. I'm wondering if you can just talk about some of the capabilities, the teams, the tech, the therapies that have most changed your practice, now that you have this center. Just in a 1-minute answer, if you could kind of give us those highlights.
So just to understand, we grew from 24 little ward to triple the size of 2 big wards of 74 beds, and we doubled our outpatient services.
And it's the only center of this kind in Jerusalem, correct?
It's the only center of this kind for young people in Jerusalem. We literally stepped on each other's feet. So that space enabled us to walk with a patient 400 meters and have high technology, the best technology in Israel. People from other hospitals comes to see.
You can see how proud you are, and it's really, I've been to the Ganzel Rehabilitation Center, and it is really an unbelievable place. I want each of you to share a story. Obviously don't share the names of the patients or anything private. I don't need to tell you that, but something that really captures the resilience of what you've witnessed. Dr. Shabbat, why don't you start?
I would like to share the story of a lone soldier, an American citizen, that was wounded in Lebanon a year ago. He was supposed to get married only a month after his injury, but instead he spent the whole year in the ICU at Hadassah Ein Karem and then in the rehabilitation center of Hadassah Mount Campus. So this patient, he sustained a traumatic brain injury, a very severe one, and injuries to both of his legs. He had compound fractures and vascular injury, nerve injury, and extended wounds. At Hadassah Ein Karem, they were able to save his life and to save his legs. And then he was moved to Hadassah Mount Campus to the rehabilitation center. At the beginning, he couldn't communicate. He suffered a great deal of cognitive impairment. He couldn't walk. He couldn't even move his right leg. And he was screaming from pain. And gradually, with a very intensive rehabilitation process, he, with careful medication engagement and management, with physical therapy to his legs, with cognitive occupational therapy and psychologists that followed him, and a social worker that followed his fiancée. He's now walking, he's communicating, he makes us all laugh. And just a few weeks ago, he got married to the love of his life. And the entire rehabilitation team had the privilege to dance with him in his wedding. It was a truly very emotional moment that gave us all the strength to continue doing what we're doing. And with a lot of support of the Hadassah Women's Organization and the Jewish community from all over the world.
Well, Dr. Shabbat, Dr. Ofran, and Professor Weil, incredible stories, incredible strength, and certainly, as you said, we're in it for the long haul with all of the rehabilitation. So thank you so much for being here.
On October 7th, and in the difficult months that followed, Magen David Adom stood at the very heart of Israel's emergency response. Whether on the front lines or behind the scenes, Magen David Adom harnessed innovation and dedication to save lives. To share more about their work and its impact since October 7th, 3 leaders from the organization: Moshe Tzadok, manager of the Automatic Blood Typing Unit, Rafael Herbest, paramedic and head of Project Magen, and Ronit Glazer from the 101 Dispatch Center.
Thank you so much for being here today. So I want to get started by taking us back to October 7th. Israel's emergency system was tested like never before. Each of you tell me briefly, where were you that day and what challenge did you face? Rafael, why don't you start?
Wow, October 7th. Woke up like everybody else in the state of Israel with the alarms, non-stopping alarms going on and on with the red alerts. I'm a lieutenant colonel in the reserve of the Home Front Command. I'm in charge of recruiting teams to reinforce Magen David Adom in times of escalations. So as the alarm started, 5 minutes afterwards, I realized that something is different. I quickly rushed to the headquarters and over there started to recruit the unit and reinforce Magen David Adom with over 600 ambulance drivers, paramedics, and medics, and send them everywhere needed during these difficult times.
Unbelievable. Ronit, and where were you?
I was in Jerusalem. I arrived, I wasn't on shift. I arrived to the Jerusalem Dispatch Center with my 2 daughters because I don't have a bomb shelter at home and it's a bomb shelter there, and started answering calls from all over the country, mainly from down south, grasping the situation from what I hear on the line and trying to figure out how I can still help the people there, even though I realize that it'll take us a long time to arrive.
And Tzadok, what about you?
I woke up, and when I heard the alarms, I immediately drove to the Mother Blood Center and start to arrange the laboratory for the blood units that will arrive.
Now, Tzadok, you were talking about the blood, and I know that you were actually the director of the Automatic Blood Typing Center or Laboratory for MADA.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about what happened with MADA that day. How did you ensure a sufficient and efficient supply of blood on October 7th, and what type of blood was needed to deal with this trauma?
Yes, for the trauma patient, we need a special blood that's called low-titer whole blood. For that, to supply this blood, you have to understand, in regular times, we supply approximately between 5 to 10 units to the army and to the trauma center in Israel. But after October 7th, we had to supply 100 units every day. This is like mission impossible. So what we do, we automated the system. We automated all the system. We do validation and automate the system that we can provide 100 units per day. What we do, we shifted to 12 hours work, 24/7, and because we shifted to 24/7 and work even in Shabbat, we managed to check all the 5,000 every day and to supply and to check to supply approximately 100 units of low-titer oral blood to the army. You have to understand this kind of unit is a special unit for the patient with severe trauma, the bleeding patient, because it's in all the articles that's saying that this blood unit is better from what was before. Before, the patient will get PECT cells. PECT cells is only the red blood cells. But low-titer oral blood contains the red blood cells, contain plasma with anticoagulants, and contain platelets.
And is that what we call? Is that what we call whole blood?
Yes, it's whole blood, but it's not regular whole blood. It's whole blood with low titer of anti-A and anti-B. And to find it, it's a very, very hard work. Fortunately for us, the director of the MADA Blood Services, Professor Elad Shinar, thought of this long before the war. And she told me, Tzadok, we have to integrate this product to the blood services. How can you do it? So we started to read articles. and we started to do validation that took us half a year, and we managed to enter this product, both biologically to check it and computerized it. So we can supply this product. We didn't know that a war will happen. And you have to understand, the mortality rate 20 years ago when they used packed cells was about 15% of the injury soldiers in the field. And now, according to the army, the mortality rate dropped to 7%.
Wow, it's half. Less than half.
It's less than half. It's not because only the red blood cell, only the whole blood low titer. It's because that there were doctors in the point of injury and give these special blood units.
Incredible. I mean, that's lives saved. The innovation really impacted the number of people who stayed alive. And I know, actually, Rafael, I want to move to you because you also are running a very innovative program called the Magen Project. Not physical, it's not like the blood, but it is a project that empowers local communities to respond even after or even before the ambulances arrive. On October 7th, when many towns and communities were obviously cut off, how did the community teams operate? What gaps did you find that needed to be filled?
So Magen David Adom's goal is to save lives, and in order to save lives, we have to be everywhere all the time. So when people call for help, help will be for ever needed. And in times of crisis or mass casualty events, the needs sometimes are more than the abilities of organization to give to people. So what Magen David Adom decided to do is to increase the abilities, and our way to increase the abilities is to educate the public. And we went out with the Magen Project, educating communities, municipalities, over 1,400 communities and municipalities, educating over 16,000 people, distributing almost 12,000 medical kits and supplies. So people should not have to wait to save lives until an ambulance arrives, no matter what, if the roads are blocked or there's no ability for the vehicles to enter any communities. They can start saving lives once anything happens, every emergency.
So what would it take to be able to expand this project so that really there is no community in Israel that would ever be left vulnerable again?
So Magen David Adom annually trains over 500,000 people with different types of first aid training. And we're really trying to go out to all the municipalities and train as much as possible, to do as much as possible collaborations. Together with this project, we also have midwives that are working together with us in the district communities, training doctors and medics who regularly don't volunteer for Magen David Adom, but to train them and support them with equipment. So if anything happens, our software can find, and this is where Ronit comes inside the picture, locate these people in wherever they are so they can help save lives even before help arrives.
Incredible. And I do want to turn to you, Ronit, actually to talk to you about the 101 Dispatch Center, which received, of course, tens of thousands of calls on October 7th. What was it like inside the center that day, and how did technology help or struggle to keep up with the load?
The technology actually helped very much during that day. Something that we have on our computer screen is that whenever someone calls a second time, we will already see where they are and what they called about, and everything will be written in front of our eyes. So even though we were dealing with the amount of calls that we never thought that we would deal with, and dealing with a situation that for the first time ever, we can't say the ambulance is on the way. That's a complete break in the link of saving lives for us. We could see already what they told us, and we could continue from the end of their last conversation. In addition, we can receive their current location via WhatsApp. So many of the people I personally spoke to, you heard hope in their voice as soon as they sent me their location, and I said to them, I know where you are. We'll get to you as soon as we can. And you could hear some sort of a sigh of relief saying, I understand that it'll take you a long time. I will try to stay here as long as I can. I'm happy you know that I'm here. And actually, these locations that we received helped the IDF afterwards to unfortunately find the bodies of many people we couldn't reach. And you tried to give as much hope as you could to patients while you inside felt hopeless and helpless and frustrated. And all day long, we pretty much, luckily, many people arrived. The dispatch receives calls from all over the country. So we received from down south, and people also in Haifa received from there. Everyone received calls from there. And we were able to replace people when they couldn't anymore. A lot of people just broke into tears after calls and had to go out to calm themselves down so someone else could sit instead of them. And it was 4 times the amount of calls we normally get on a Shabbat morning, nonstop.
Now, Renee, you must have learned a lot about what a technology, in addition to what you already had, would be helpful. And I understand that over the last couple years, MADA has really been able to innovate and to change the way that you manage the call center in order that, God forbid, if there will ever be a next time, you would be able to handle it better. Talk to me about some of that new technology and innovation.
Well, I'm happy to say that our technology is built in-house. So already on October 8th, we have this virtual 911 system that we've had for a long time so that the police and the fire department and us can interact without picking up the phone. As soon as we receive any information, any call that we need them, it goes up on their screens at the same time that we receive it. On October 8th already, our system became in a way that as soon as we want to say anything to the police, if it's even already a call that we have with them, we press a button and they get the same information that we just received. Amazing. So that's something that right away changed. In addition to that, we learned a lot on October 7th about the need for primary care points. So instead of we understood that there were areas that we couldn't reach. Whoever could leave there, we marked on the map in a very not a good way on October 7th, understanding that we need a mark on the map for everyone in the whole country who works in the dispatch and also the IDF and also the police to know where these primary care points are. So the system already learned from that, and by the time we had the Iranian attack, the 12-day war here, we already had on our system a way to mark on the computer screen, on the map, where the primary care point is, which is not at the location of the explosion, but a bit further away, and anyone in the whole country could tell people, go there, that's where you'll get treated.
Incredible. Now, we're going to run out of time, but I do want us to be able to each give about 30 seconds looking a little bit forward and what will happen next. Now, with God's help, hopefully we'll have at least another 2 years before we experience, and hopefully forever, another crisis like the last one. But what other additional changes in each of your departments would you envision? What would be the most important innovation that MADA is working on in your department to be able to be prepared next time around? Again, God forbid. Tzadok, why don't you start?
What is the important thing is now it's to do another validation because now, let me explain. Now we can find about 100 units per day. But if forbidden, there will be another war, and they will need more than 100. We have to develop now a technique to find more than 100. And for the technique, we had to do a validation. So that's what I'm preparing for.
Oh. And what about you, Ronit?
I think one thing that we're working on that I already talked about, the interface with the other organizations, is something so important for inside Magen David Adom and also outside, so that everything will happen really by a click of a button. Just as soon as I receive important information as a 101 caller, as soon as I receive it, whoever needs to know it will have it, and it will manage to last even if there's a blackout, even if there's anything else. And we're working on those systems right now. We already have satellites and stuff like that to make sure that we'll be able to continue and that it won't affect saving lives.
Unbelievable. And Rafael, if you could give some final sentiments.
So for us, it's about mapping and adding resources all the time to Magen David Adom. So we're mapping all the AEDs in the condos, in the shopping center. So when something is needed, we can always guide people to the nearest location where there is first aid equipment or AEDs. And second of all is getting more resources, training people also in times of escalations. People who have a shared bomb shelter at the building, we can do online courses, and we believe that saving lives should be something very simple.
For sure, and I hope that all of the Israelis will take advantage of that, but that we will never need it. Thank you all so much for being here today.
בשנתיים האחרונות הייתי בטבריה, ראש פינה, קיבוץ כנרת.
אני צריכה להתנתק מהחיים הקודמים שלי ומחלק מהמשפחה שלי.
אני לא רציתי לחזור למושב. יש כל הזמן בומים, מכירות רועדים. בהתחלה הרגשתי כעס, האמת. אני לא יודע על מה, אבל הרגשתי כעס כזה על זה שלא נותנים לנו לחזור לבית שלנו, לאיפה שגדלנו בעצם.
להיות כאן במחנה נותן לי כמו חופש אחרי התקופה של המלחמה, של השנתיים.
וכשאני כאן אז פתאום זה מרגיש לי קצת, כאילו קצת הדברים חזרו להיות נורמלי, קצת כמו לפני המלחמה.
Campers Together is a program that we are now running for its second season. We are taking teens from the most traumatic areas of Israel and we are bringing them to a hallmark of North American Jewry, which is Jewish summer camp.
Having these Israeli teens not only is a great experience for them, but it continues to be the most impactful experience of the entire summer. Our campers and our staff are better for it. Our connection to Israel has never been stronger.
Wow! The idea of Campers Together, to take these youngsters, bring them overseas to the American children, playing together, find joy, and establishing together a future of hope.
באותה שבת התעוררנו נורא מוקדם לממ"ד. אבא שלי החליף את הרבש"ץ, ובערב קוראים לאמא שלי למעלה. כאילו כל תסריט אפשרי שעבר לי בראש לא היה כזה, שיבשרו לי שאבא שלי נהרג.
בבוקר נוסע בערב הוא
השנתיים האחרונות היו נורא קשות. היינו צריכים להתרגל לשגרה חדשה, לחיים חדשים. לא הייתי בטוחה שאני רוצה לבוא בגלל שזה כאילו היה נראה נורא שונה, אבל כאילו באמת להתמצא הופך את זה למשהו כל כך שונה במיוחד. כאילו אני מרגישה נורא רגועה פה. אני יכולה לומר שאני מאוד שמחה שבאתי.
אנחנו בעצם לוקחים ילדים שחוו חוויות לא פשוטות, מנתקים אותם מכל הסביבה הטבעית שלהם, מאפשרים פה בעצם להתחבר לעולם חדש. ובתוך האינטנסיביות הזאת לפעמים גם יש חלקים מורכבים, וזה התפקיד שלנו, אנשי החוסן, לעזור להם מחדש להתחבר לכוחות שלהם, לתת סיוע.
It's healing and connection for the Israeli kids to come here and teach American kids what Israel's about. At the same time, North American kids can talk about the Jewish life here.
אתה רואה מה Campers Together עושה לילדים הישראלים. אתה רואה גם מה זה עושה ליהודים מהתפוצות. הם יוצאים מפה עם חברויות, והדבר היחיד שחיבר אותם זה החוויה שהם עברו ביחד, והעובדה שהם יהודים.
So we couldn't do this program by ourselves. We need a lot of fantastic partners to run Campers Together.
Thank you! For our community is tremendous. It is such an incredible chance to open our doors and extend those open doors to everybody. It's just wonderful, wonderful.
The world's been so difficult these past few years particularly, and so to see young people being together, sharing their stories, it just gives us all hope for the Jewish people.
At Campers Together, we plant the seed of unity. United we stand.
The Jewish Agency's Summer Camp Shlichim program brings young Israelis to Jewish camp across North America, where they serve as counselors, share Israeli and Jewish culture, and act as a role model for campers. Building on this success, the agency also launched Campers Together, an initiative that offers Israeli teens affected by conflict a healing respite abroad while creating meaningful bonds with their Jewish peers. Today, we'll hear about these efforts from Shelley Kedar, Chief Impact Officer at the Jewish Agency, and former camper Hila Katz, who experienced the program firsthand.
So Shelley and Hili, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
So Shelley, let's start with you. You know, you recently became the Jewish Agency's first Chief Impact Officer. And I want to ask about the Campers Together program. How does that sort of reflect the agency's sort of broader vision of creating meaningful impact in Jewish life worldwide?
Thank you for that question. So the Jewish Agency strives to connect Jewish people to each other and to Israel, and also to generate collective action. And Campers Together brings together these two main areas. On the one hand, we send young teens to their counterparts around the world, particularly in North America. And on the other hand, we do this with the collective action of many communities, foundations, and individual funders, and as well as the camps themselves that rally together to make this program happen.
And the program was born out of tragedy. You know, what was the inspiration behind launching Campers Together after October 7th, and what role do you see it playing in the healing process for Israeli teens?
So we were really looking to see what we can do, what's our unique value proposition as the Jewish Agency, and our unique abilities to do something meaningful for teens in Western Negev and also the Northern Confrontation Line. And because we have such a long-standing relationship with summer camps and with Jewish communities worldwide, and because we also have an educational and technical infrastructure to be able to send teens abroad, we thought of this program and created it in the sense that it's not only a healing program, but also a connect program. From the healing perspective, each group that's sent abroad is sent together with a mental health professional and goes through a process before going to camp and also after, and of course during camp. So there's a lot of work that's done quietly, subversively. We're not a mental health specialist. This is not a therapy camp, but there's a lot to be said for the fact to have a cohort experience, to be connected with other teens, to be in a joyful and quiet and peaceful environment, which is summer camp, that does a lot for the soul.
A lot for the soul, and also, you know, connection is at the heart of this initiative. And so I want to ask, how do you see sort of the Jewish summer camps abroad creating a bridge between Israeli teens and their peers around the world?
So Jewish summer camps have been creating bridges for decades. And with us, with the Jewish Agency, through our Shlichim program, when we welcome and bring Israelis to summer camp to work as madrichim and in different areas of camp, we've been doing this for many, many years, over 50 years. So they're natural bridges and natural environments. What's unique here is that we bring teens to their counterparts, to their equals, to other teens, and put them together in very informal settings, and that creates organic relationships. And of course, camp goes to a lot of effort together with us, with the Jewish Agency and the staff, to actually make sure that people connect to each other and create relationships and conversations, etc.
And Hili, I want to turn to you now and hear a little bit from you about sort of how it was for you personally to join Campers Together and spend time at camp last summer.
It was amazing. It was one of the best times like ever. I had so much fun. I met so many new people. I'm talking like around 100 new people that I really connected to, and I still keep in touch with them. This summer was just super meaningful for me. It really made me realize a lot of stuff about myself, and I just enjoyed every second.
And can you maybe share with us a story or a moment, you know, that really stood out, that you felt connected to campers, maybe from, you know, from outside of Israel?
I think a lot of the traditions at camp, there were the Shabbat services that were every Friday and Saturday morning. And we were just, the whole camp singing together. And maybe like every dinners and meals, they had this like thing they did. Always many cheers and stuff, and it always just really made us feel a part of the community there.
Lovely. And Shelley, I want to turn back to you, you know, sort of looking ahead. How do you see Campers Together growing in the future?
Firstly, I think it's a crucial program for the future of a connection between Israel and diaspora, not less Israel and the Jewish world, because for the past 5 years, we haven't been able to actually meet. COVID and then war and other, you know, things that have prevented us from meeting each other. So bringing teens to camp is actually bringing Israel to them. And I think the program needs to expand and sustain itself for the long term and become a permanent program for the Jewish people. It's essential that at this crucial age, at 14 and 15, young people actually get to learn about each other firsthand and authentically.
Especially needed in today's world, absolutely. And Hili, you know, to wrap up, if you could tell other Israeli teens why programs like this matter, what would you say to them?
Wow, it's a really great question. I think that the whole experience, the whole like journey of it, it just made our class, like the grade and the people that came with us, just so much united. Like, we got to meet each other more than we, like, for the past 10 years did. It's amazing. It unites everybody. It makes you learn stuff about yourself. I think it's very crucial also right now, after we've all been separate apart, we've all been kind of like separated, to have this experience that made us come back together and have a chance at rebuilding this kind of like friendship.
Shelly, thank you so much for joining us. And Healy, thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us today.
Next, we turn to the communities of the Eshkol region, among the hardest hit on October 7th. Since that tragic day, these kibbutzim have needed trauma care, emergency assistance, and special programs for children and youth to help them rebuild resilience and look toward a better future. Our next interview is with Penina Aganyahu, Director of the Global Jewish Connections at the Jewish Agency.
Nina, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for being here.
So you lead the Jewish Agency's Partnership Together initiative and the Communities Together as the manager of the Global Jewish Connections Department. So can you explain to us how this program was mobilized in the wake of October 7th, and what makes it sort of unique in responding to the needs of local communities here in Israel?
So the Jewish Agency had a partnership together for the last 30 years, and it was basically in the peripheria area, in the south and the north, supporting communities like Yerucham and Bet She'an, when the major thing was connecting people to people, and by that, connecting the Jewish people to Israel, and Israel is to Jewish identity and Jewish worldwide. And that's worked for 30 years. And the idea there was to bring them together, to connect, and then support each other, right? When October 7 launched, we were down there with the Fund for Victims of Terror and other programming, and we saw the evacuated from the Western Negev to the hotels, and we were asking ourselves, what is going to be the added value of us as an organization, as a platform partnership together, to straighten those connections again, and also support in solidarity those communities. And what I saw on the ground was that communities that already had a partnership, like Netivot already had a partnership with Philadelphia, and Ofakim with Metro West, the first thing they had is that the CEO of the Jewish Federation of Metro West called the mayor of Ofakim and asked him, what can I do for you? And the same happened again in all those cities that we already had a partnership before. But the kibbutzim and the moshavim that didn't have any partnership, no one was there to hug them from the Jewish world. No one was there to ask them what you need. Philanthropy was there, a lot of philanthropy was there, but it wasn't the personal connection and the people coming in. So what we decided is that no community will left behind. So those that didn't had a connection to any community, it was 27 communities like that in the Western Negev. And we start slowly matchmaking them, and I become the matchmaker of the Jewish people in my organization. And you know, it was amazing to see that none of the Jewish communities from the Jewish Federation of North America that I reach out to say no.
So an incredible show of solidarity from Jewish communities around the world. And since the attack, as you mentioned, 27 communities in Gaza, and now Gaza envelope, and now 2 municipalities in the north have been paired with Jewish communities abroad. And so what impact have you already seen on the ground from these partnerships?
So first of all, if you look at the funding that came into it, it's a total of $19 million commitment for 3 years for all the 27. It's a lot. Okay, it's in addition to what the government is providing to other organizations. But I think the unique part of it is that we asked the community leadership to sit with the Jewish Community Federation together. If we put together Cleveland with Kisofim, for example, we asked them to sit together as a team and decide what's the plan for the $250,000 a year plus 3 years. So that's one impact, the funding that they can use and utilize for whatever they need. It can be a youth coordinator that they never had before, because now you need more infrastructure and more impact on the youth that came back home. It can be a new farm. It can be even a synagogue that wasn't there before, because now they want to have space, a spiritual space for them. It can be a garden that it's a nature healing gardening that they can put together. And then the best impact out of it is that the community abroad is part of the decision, but also part of taking it in action. So they come and see in their eyes what happened with the funding they put together. So a lot of them went to strengthen their leadership. A lot of them went to rebuild a structure that they had and was destroyed. And a lot of it went to really missions of groups that came to meet together and build a garden, painting the houses, and things like that.
So looking ahead, how do you see these global partnerships evolving? I mean, what role do you believe diaspora communities play and can continue to play in helping Israelis not only recover, but as you mentioned, sort of thrive in the years to come?
First of all, I believe strongly that what happening here affect our friends and our family and brother and sister outside of Israel. So you can't deny what happening here, and the connection are so strong. And when the connection are strong and you build on that, there's so much to do together in the impact as a global jury. And I think beyond the philanthropy is the connection that we create with each other and straight in, there's a living bridge, that's how we call it, when the bridge is really alive and you get to understand who you are and they get to understand who we are, and you can share those stories. And I believe that if we can engage more and more communities outside of Israel to be connected with Israel through the partnership platform, through other initiatives, it will strengthen our ability not only to share our story and narrative and affect what we see out, what happening there as well, as the rise of anti-Semitism and the pro-Palestine protests all over. It's constraining both sides. And we can see that because you see more and more young people, for example, that join a program like that, and they all of a sudden meet a young fellow from Be'eri or Nahal Oz, and they get to know exactly what happened there, and not from the media. It's affecting both sides. So I believe that the way to grow is to create more and more communities that join us, not only from abroad, but also in Israel community. The North really waiting for us to connect more and more communities there. We're talking about 5 municipalities at the moment that are not connected with specific community, and we already did 2, as you mentioned, but there's 3 more that we want to connect. And this way, if you map the country, it's almost every city here can be connected directly to another community or Jewish community, and by those connections, they will find together their way to be together, to be active, to support each other. And supporting it's not only for this side, it's also supporting the other side as well.
Absolutely. Pnina, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing these wonderful initiatives.
Thank you. My pleasure.
The Shinshinim program, Israel's Year of Service initiative, gives high school graduates the opportunity to spend up to 10 months serving Jewish communities abroad. Through the program, local communities meet young Israeli ambassadors who contribute in meaningful ways before entering the IDF.
Let's start with introductions. Can you each tell us your name and where you're from in Israel and where you served as Shinshinim?
My name is Dan Ben-Nun. I'm from Mushav Netayim, which is very close to Rishon LeZion, and I served in Albany, New York.
And Itamar?
I am Itamar Grines, live in Moshav Nitzan, which is in the Eshkol Regional Council, and served as a Shinshin in Mexico City.
And what was it like arriving in your host community for the first time, Dan?
For the first time, it was very overwhelming and exciting, but thankfully and luckily for me, I had an amazing supervisor, an amazing host family, and the community is so warm and open for new people. So I hit the ground running and felt at home.
And was there a particular moment or relationship that made you feel, this is why I'm here, Dan?
For me, the moment that made me feel this is why I'm here is in Yom HaZikaron, there was this event, which was the first time I stood in front of the entire community and talked. And I told them how Yom HaZikaron looks like in Israel, about the silence, the siren, and how the entire country mourns together. And then how we switch it so quickly from mourning and sadness to the joy of Yom HaAtzmaut and the importance of having them together and one with the other. And I felt like people understood and made them feel some sort of connection to Israel. And for me, it felt like that was the living bridge between Israel and the community over there.
Itamar, special moment or relationship?
I think the relationship with the hosting family I had, the Laniados family, which hosted me for, think like 9 or 10 months, which was for me till now and for the rest of my life, there will be my second family. To my adopted father, I call father, and to my adopted brothers and siblings, I call siblings. And for me, I really gifted with this family.
Right. And from your perspectives, how do you think the families, the schools, or the synagogues you worked with were impacted by Shinshinim?
I think especially now in our times, having Shinshinim is bringing Israel in a way that's not just news headlines and stuff. It's a lot of culture, music, food, singing, activities, and really brings into the family and the community a living piece of Israel, and really brings something physical and not just an idea.
All right. Itamar, Dan, thank you for speaking with us.
Our next interview features Maxime Green, a former Massa volunteer and program graduate. Massa is the leader in immersive international experiences in Israel for young Jewish adults, offering opportunities to volunteer, study, and connect deeply with Israeli society and Jewish life.
Maxime, thank you so much for joining us today.
Pleasure.
So I want to ask about your personal story. What drew you to come to Israel after October 7th? And after your initial decision, what sort of evolved into the desire to stay here long term?
So in my own experience, I always knew at some point in my life I wanted to come and live in Israel. I grew up as a kid from London, a Jewish guy coming here. I have a lot of family here from Israel, which has always been amazing to come and visit them. But I think, after October 7th, it really kind of fast-forwarded my desire to come here with everything going on in Europe outside of Israel, and just, the real desire to just want to be part of what Israel stands for and part of what Israel does, and just to really be inside of it and just feel the unity of the people in times of such difficulty after October 7th. It was really important to me, and as little or as much as I could do, there was just such an urge and a desire to be here and be part of the people and be part of the country. And then in terms of the volunteering, that was something that I wanted to do. I was actually coming here possibly without doing some kind of Massa program, but was going to look to do some volunteering. So when I heard about this particular Massa program of MITF, it just perfectly suited what I was looking to do. And it was a really amazing experience.
So you mentioned the Massa program, which you arrived via this program, which offers sort of hands-on volunteer tracks and builds connections. And so I want to ask, what part of your Massa experience sort of challenged you the most, and maybe what surprised you the most about life here in Israel?
I think I was grateful to kind of already sort of know what life in Israel was about, having come here so many times, but it is very much different to, visiting on holiday to living here full time. I think that just the very relaxed kind of nature of everything here in Israel, it's different certainly from London, where I'm from, and I'd say other places in Europe as well. Everything's just very relaxed here, and everyone kind of works to their own time period. A lot of the volunteering I did was actually working with children in schools, and it's a very different experience compared to London, particularly. But it's something that I really, really enjoyed. All of, everyone there is so deep down, so kind, so willing to help, so just willing to be bright and really happy. And that's in times of really, wartime here, in times of real difficulty, that, ability to just stay strong and smile and be happy is really what makes Israel really special, in my opinion.
And which moments made you feel as though, you belong here in Israel?
I think one of the best things about being in Israel, I live in Tel Aviv, but I've lived in places like Bat Yam and in Holon before. Just wherever you are, whatever environment that you're in, you could be in a restaurant or you could be by the beach with total strangers. And, a lot of times you can just break out into song, or someone can be playing music and you can just become best friends with somebody instantly, because you already have that instant connection, whether they're Jewish, whether they're Arab, whether they're Muslim, it doesn't matter. We all here for a love of the country, and we all just feel a real passion and desire to be here. And that's one of the best things, that you can just really have a connection with somebody super fast.
And so what unique contributions can someone from the diaspora make when they join Israel sort of during a time of crisis like you did?
I mean, there's incredible opportunities that not just Massa, but I mean, you can find volunteering opportunities anywhere. I mean, one of the things that we did, we went down as part of the program to a lot of the kibbutzim that were really damaged on October 7th. And, you know, for example, there's one of the kibbutzim is a mainly farming kibbutz, and we just went and we were just helping to pick oranges off of the trees and, you know, provide it to the kibbutz. And, you know, any little thing that we could do, because they lost so much of their agriculture on October 7th. And, you know, it's something that we really wanted to help. So there's things like that. You know, I've done some amazing volunteering programs where I'm making lunch for soldiers who are coming in and out of Gaza. There's so many things that you can do, and that was really amazing for me to be a part of.
And so how do you hope that your personal story will maybe inspire others from around the world to come to Israel? And sort of what message do you want to share about the power of walking through borders to stand sort of in solidarity or for Israel?
It's amazing, really. I mean, I'm a real believer that, you know, I guess, unfortunately, with everything going on in the media and the outside world, it's really important to come here and really see what the country is yourself. Because, you know, whatever you hear from people on either side, you really won't know how you feel about it or what's going on until you are here. And I just urge anybody to come and spend 4 or 5 days here at any point, and you will really just make your own opinion on Israel. And that was really important to me. You know, anyone coming from the outside world, there is a place for you here. There is always things for you to do in whatever field, whatever way in which you want to contribute, there is a way here. And again, what I love about Israel is just everybody is here for the same purpose. Everybody just wants the best for the country. Everybody wants to live happily, for everyone to be safe and everyone to be, you know, together and united. And there are so many opportunities here for anyone from the diaspora or from within Israel to help as much as they can. And that was a really important message for me to come here and convey.
Absolutely. A very important message. Maxime, thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.
As we conclude today's program, we remember the victims, honor the survivors, and celebrate the resilience of the Jewish people. The stories we heard remind us that even in the face of unimaginable loss, our strength lies in unity, compassion, and hope. On behalf of the Jewish Agency and ILTV, thank you for joining us in this commemoration. May we continue to stand together, support one another, and work for a stronger future for Israel and the Jewish people worldwide.